Hello mind mappers and welcome to the video. Today we're going to be going over Limitless by Jim Kwik. Inside the book, Jim's going to show us how to upgrade our brain, learn anything faster, and unlock your exceptional life. If you're part of this YouTube channel, if you're one of the subscribers, you know that this is going to be a great book for us. We're going to talk about how Limitless relates to mind mapping and how we can use some of the principles inside of Limitless to really help us learn more and remember better the books that we read. With that, we're going to dive directly into the introduction, Limitless. The first quote that I pulled from the book to give us a good overview of what we're going to be learning today goes like this. The hero's journey is the perfect structure to lend power and purpose to your personal story. In Limitless, you are the superhero. So you're getting kind of an idea of how we're starting off the book. We are the superhero of our own story. He says that one of my core beliefs is that human potential is one of, if not the, only infinite resources we have in this world. Most everything else is finite, but the human mind is the ultimate superpower. There is no limit to our creativity, imagination, determination, or ability to think, reason, and learn. Yet this resource is also among the least tapped. All of us can be the heroes of our own story, dipping into the well of our potential every single day and never having that well run dry. But so few of us approach our lives this way. That's why I wrote this book, to help you realize that no matter where you are or where you've been, you absolutely can free yourself from the limits to liberation. That might be the only extra you need to transition from this ordinary into the extraordinary world. This book is going to provide you with the extra. What you'll get within these pages is a series of tools that will help you cast off your perceived restrictions. You're going to learn how to unlimit your brain. You're going to learn how to unlimit your drive. You're going to learn how to unlimit your memory, your focus, and your habits. If I am your mentor in this hero's journey, then this book is your map to master your mind, motivation, and methods to learn how to learn. And once you've done that, you will be limitless. It's a really great introduction, giving us exactly what we're going to be learning today. Really, we're talking about in this introduction the hero of our own story, something that I really identify with, and I know a lot of people on the channel do as well. I'm incredibly happy that Jim started the book where he did, a place of motivation, positive self-image, and a real call to action to be the best that we can be. These two things I feel like are often missed in productivity and academia and places that we traditionally think of as learning environments. Even different books that I've read, I feel like a lot of the books that are more tactical and productivity based, they don't talk a lot about the mindset that it takes to be able to learn, where you need to start from a place of being willing to go through the fire, of being willing to be that hero of your own story, of being willing to accept that you're capable of more than you currently have. And Jim's story is really empowering in and of itself. When he was a young kid, he had a traumatic brain injury, which left him labeled as the kid with the broken brain. Obviously something incredibly difficult to overcome, feeling as though not only are you stupid, but actually you're fundamentally broken. It's something that I think really we can all actually relate to, even though we weren't the kid with the broken brain. Often we might be thinking, I can't do that. It's something that we potentially tell ourselves all the time, so often. When we have something that we might like to do, we might want to start a business, get a career, or learn a skill. Often before we even try, we tell ourselves that it's not possible for us, or that person achieved something that we couldn't possibly do. That's often the place that we start. So for me, the trick to becoming limitless, and really the core of the entire book, and the start of this book anyways, is the trick to becoming limitless is to first start with unlocking your mind through positive self-talk. Then we can go into some of the great learning models that Jim has created, some of which definitely changed the way that I learn, mind map, and read. A lot of the models that Jim presents in the book are something that I have picked up through other books inside of my journey with mind mapping and in my journey with learning. But there's some new and interesting things that I think you're going to take away and are really going to change your life. Speaking of mind mapping, if you want to get the most out of these mind maps, you can do that by following along. You can find the process of how I mind map, plus all of the 50 mind maps that I've done on the channel, including this one, all at the link down below. Following along is going to help you learn more, remember better, and apply these books to your life, which of course is the name of the game if we're looking to become limitless. So our first point here is about limitless, and the quote goes like this: "You can learn to be, do, have, and share with no constraints." I wrote this book to prove this to you. If you're not learning or living at your true potential, if there is a gap between your current reality and your desired reality, here's the reason. There is a limit that must be released and replaced in one of these three core areas. These are the 3 M's that we're looking at in the book. A limit in your mindset. You entertain a low belief in yourself, your capabilities, what you deserve, or what is possible. A limit in your motivation. You lack the drive, purpose, or energy to take action. A limit in your methods. You were taught and are acting on a process that is not effective to create the results that you desire. This applies to an individual, a family, or an organization. We all have our own unique story of struggles and strengths. Whatever your situation happens to be, here's the best part. You're not alone. I'm going to help you become limitless in your own way. Within the 3-part framework, you're about to learn limitless mindset, limitless motivation, and limitless methods. So again, those are really the 3 M's: mindset, motivation, and methods. Good to remember those. Now, inside this quote, I noticed something interesting. Limitless isn't inside a pill like it is in the movie, but it's inside a model. Starting with mindset, as we talked about in the opening of the book, that's really where this whole thing kicks off. This whole limitless journey kicks off. Mindset, the what, our deeply held beliefs, our attitudes, our assumptions. We create about who we are, how the world works, what we are capable of and deserve, and what is possible for us. What holds us back from being limitless when it comes to mindset? Well, we entertain a low belief of ourselves, capabilities, and what we deserve or what is possible for ourselves. Now, I want you to be noticing some of these things during this mind map. I want you to take these with you. How are you viewing yourself? And we'll get that into a little bit more about that in our journaling questions that I've created for you down below. Next, I think we need to look at our motivation and our energy. Of course, this is the motivation, this limitless motivation part of the book. Motivation really is the why, the purpose one has for taking action, the energy required for someone to behave in a particular way. So what holds us back from being limitless when it comes to motivation? We're lacking purpose, drive, energy to take action. Finally, we need, of course, leverage, methods before we can really accomplish anything great. Method is the how, a specific process for accomplishing something, especially in an orderly, logical, or systematic way of instruction. So what holds us from being limitless when it comes to models? Well, we're using models that are potentially outdated, or maybe we're approaching something that isn't modeled at all. When I first got into mind mapping, I didn't have a model. I didn't have a learning model. I didn't have half of the things that I'm using inside of this video to help you learn better from these books. But what I noticed was mind mapping is a really great tool, but a thought model and a learning model, those are the methods to help us learn more and remember better from books. I talk all about that learning model inside of this mind map, and I talk a lot about it inside of my mind mapping course that you can get down in the description down below. So let's take some time to reflect with these journaling questions about the 3 M's inside of Jim Kwik's Limitless book. Let's talk about mindset first. What do you believe you're capable of? I recommend that you have this mind map downloaded and actually answer these questions. What have I accomplished in the past? And what is possible for me? All good things to think about when it comes to mindset before we even get started in motivation and method. Now, motivation. How connected do I feel to my purpose? As Jim said up here, purpose is really the cornerstone. And how are my day-to-day energy levels? Now, of course, this is a myriad of different things. It's going to play into this, how much sleep you got, what you ate, and all those sorts of things. But we just want to know, how are my day-to-day energy levels? Am I able to accomplish everything I want to accomplish during my day, given the energy levels that I have? What am I allowing to drain my energy that I no longer should tolerate? Now, this is a very good one as well. Are you spending a lot of time watching YouTube videos that aren't educational for you? Are you spending a lot of time arguing with people in your life? Are you spending a lot of time answering emails that are not really getting you anywhere? Those are all things that are going to end up draining your energy that could be easily circumvented in your life. And I recommend that you wait until we get to the motivation node down below, but we have a lot of good action items in there. Next is method. Have I thought about the methods that I'm using? For example, when you're reading, are you thinking about the method that you're going to be using for note-taking? Quite often we read just to get the book finished, and that is not the way that a smart learner would go about it. Have I learned this method from someone who has been successful at what I'm trying to achieve? So for example, we've got Jim Kwik. He's an amazing person. He actually had a traumatic brain injury, and he came up with all of these learning models for us to use when we're trying to memorize, or when we're trying to remember things that we're reading, or when we're trying to apply things in your life. Or for example, with me, the kid that basically failed all of the English classes that he took in high school and now is reading a book a week and presenting it to thousands and thousands of people on the internet. I have a lot of thought models that I've created over the years that you could steal inside of that mind mapping course. If I changed my method, would my results look different? What's that one about? That one is saying, okay, just because you've done one thing a particular way time and time again doesn't mean that it's necessarily the best method. It might be the one that you're most comfortable with, but that's not always the one that's going to help you learn, remember better, or perhaps even take action in the best way. So I really think that we need to not only look at our methods, but we need to look at our motivation, and we need to look at our mindset. Now, we're going to talk about Superhero You. We're diving directly into mindset right now. I'm a firm believer that we all have incredible superpowers that are waiting to be awakened. I'm not talking about the ability to fly, create ironclad armor, or shoot lasers from your eyes, but real-life practical abilities like flying through books, ironclad memory, laser focus, boundless creativity, clear thinking, mindfulness, superior mental attitude, and more. We are all superheroes in one way or another. A little bit about my story before we continue on. All of these things, these being able to fly through books, these ironclad memory, laser focus, creativity, all things that I didn't think that I had access to before I really got into entrepreneurship and got into my entrepreneurship journey, where reading is kind of a necessity inside of entrepreneurship. So I really learned how to read so much faster. I don't think I read a book after high school for the first couple of years, and now I fly through books. I read them extremely quickly. These are all learnable skills, all superpowers that you have waiting to be awakened inside of you. Now, just as every superhero has powers, so do they have arch nemesis. Enter the supervillain. Think the Joker to Batman, Lex Luthor to Superman. The villains we may face may not look the same as the ones in the movies, but they're still the bad guys, the ones that you as a modern superhero need to vanquish and hold at bay. Modern day supervillains get in our way and make our life harder, keeping us from our potential. They hold us back and rob us of our productivity, prosperity, and positivity, and peace of mind. And it's up to us to recognize and defeat them. So what we're talking about here again is this idea of superpowers waiting to be unleashed. So you already have these superpowers inside of you. Jim points out here that we each have these abilities, and we're able to be much more than we currently are in whatever domain we're looking to accomplish. Abilities like laser focus, ironclad memory, and boundless creativity, again, are all available to us at any time. I'm living proof of that. Although there is something standing in the way. Of course, that's the supervillains. Inside the book, we talk about the 4 Ds. So we've got the 3 M's, we've got the 4 Ds is our next thing that you might want to commit to memory. So first D is digital deluge. Compared to the 15th century, we now consume as much data in a single day as an average person from the 1400s would have absorbed in an entire lifetime. This causes us, of course, to be deluged with information, making it extremely hard to make decisions and know what action steps we should take. Number 2 is digital distraction. Instead of relaxing into the downtime that we might experience when waiting in line, waiting for a bus or an appointment, we pull out our phones and train our distraction muscles. Cal Newport talks about this quite a lot in his book, how important it is to have downtime, quiet time. Quiet time probably is the number one superpower that I've used to really up-level my game as far as personal productivity, as far as fulfillment in my own life. Taking 20 minutes of quiet time, not worrying about your breath or anything like that, will absolutely change your life. Number 3 is digital dementia. Breakdown of cognitive abilities as a result of over-reliance on our technology. There's research that says our brains are more like a muscle rather than hard drives that fill up. That the more you use it, the stronger it gets, and the more you can make it store. The question is, are we making these choices consciously, or are we acting out of unconscious habit? So this digital dementia, what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on things like this book? Are you focusing on things like personal development that is going to help you get towards your purpose in life? Or are you focusing more on things like entertainment? Are you focusing more on things like funny cat videos and that sort of thing? We have to be very careful where we are spending our brains, where we're flexing our brain's muscle. It's not like a hard drive that fills up, but we need to actually be using it time and time again. Digital deduction is our 4th D. The upshot is that deduction, an amalgam of critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity that is an essential skill for us being limitless, is becoming automated. Of course, this is making it so that we don't flex the deduction muscle. We don't use our critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity. Instead, we hit Master Google and try and find it for us. Now, I'm not saying that Google isn't a great thing, but flexing that muscle every once in a while, doing something new that hasn't been put on a YouTube video before is very, very important. Of course, we need to flex that muscle. Now, we do have a 5th bonus D, and that is digital depression, a result of comparison culture that emerges when we let the highlight reels of social media feeds of others cause us to perceive ourselves as less than. And I know a lot of us are dealing with this on a day-to-day basis. I, for one, actually have taken all of the social media apps off of my phone, off of my computer. I can only access them through a, kind of a convoluted process. And this is coming from someone who actually makes a living on social media. So that's definitely saying something. How might we overcome these 4 supervillains? Now, of course, Jim talks about this quite a lot in the book. I actually am going to go a different way. I'm going to recommend a couple of other books for you that are specifically on these topics. I think that this is such an important thing for us to overcome in modern society that you would be well served to read both of these 2 books that I'm going to recommend. I recommend, of course, Cal Newport's Digital Minimalism. It's a very good book. I've done a review for it on this channel, and you can check it out at the link down below, as well as Indistractable by Nir Eyal, another really great book by one of the guys that actually helped these social media platforms become so addictive. Nir Eyal, very, very good book about how to kind of manage this technology and use it for its positive aspects and really limit the downsides, so to speak. So again, these 2 books have made a massive changes in the way that I use technology. I don't have the apps on my phone. It's a very difficult process for me to use social media apps and other distraction-based apps on my computer. And it's also made major changes to what I recommend coaching clients do around tech. When people jump on a coaching call with me, quite often I'll ask them how often they're using social media, what their social media habits look like. And one of the first things that we usually do is we try and set some boundaries. We try and set some rules around it. Quite often, a lot of the problems that people are coming to me with are these comparison-based problems of digital depression. And I find that once we can get that cleared up a little bit more, we have this ability to open up and become more creative and find ways to do the things that they feel meaningful and purposeful in their lives, which of course is what they come to me for coaching on. Our next point is FASTER. Now, FASTER is actually an acronym, and we'll see this in a second. But to get the most out of this book, here's a simple method for learning anything quickly. This can work for mind maps as well. I call it the FASTER method, and I want you to use it as you read or as you listen and watch, starting now. The acronym FASTER stands for Forget, Act, State, Teach, Enter, Review. Forget, Act, State, Teach, Enter, Review. FASTER. Here's the breakdown. F is for forget. The key to laser focus is to remove or forget that which distracts you. A is for act. Traditional education has trained many people that learning is a passive experience. You sit quietly in a class, you don't talk to your neighbor, and you consume the information. But learning is not a spectator sport. The human brain does not learn much by consumption as it does by creation. S is for state. All learning is state dependent. Your state is a current snapshot of your emotions. It is highly influenced by your thoughts and the physical condition of your body. T is for teach. If you want to cut your learning curve dramatically, learn with the intention of teaching the information to someone else. Think about it. If you know you have to give a presentation on what you want to learn, you will approach how you learn the topic with the intent of mastering it well enough to explain it to someone else. E is for enter. What is the simplest and most powerful personal performance tool? Your calendar. We enter important things on our schedule. Do you know what a lot of people don't schedule? Well, it's their personal development and growth. It is not on your calendar. There's a good chance that it's not going to be getting done. R is for review. One of the best ways to reduce the effects of the forgetting curve is to actively recall what you learned with spaced repetition. So how I use the FASTER model in these mind maps and how you can too. Again, you're going to learn a ton about this inside of my mind mapping course, but I'm going to give you a sneak peek right now. F is for forget. Before each and every mind map, and while I'm reading, I do two very important things. Number one is I turn off my phone and all the applications on my computer. There's no way that I can get a notification, anything like that. I am focused on the task at hand. Number two is I set a 30-minute Pomodoro timer. That's just basically a little kitchen timer, and that signals my mind to focus on the task at hand rather than being distracted by some of the other things that I could be doing. How do I act when it comes to mind mapping? Well, mind mapping, it really is a building process, acting into the process of learning. So it's very, very interesting. The way that we mind map is much different than the way we take notes. When we're taking notes, we write them down line by line by line. But when we're mind mapping, while you're reading, while you're note taking, you move the nodes around and you fit them into actionable pieces rather than lines on the page. So you can see I can move this around, I can make it fit here, I can make it fit down there. Where does all this information fit together? And that's actionable information then. You can make information actionable through mind mapping. S is for state. Music. Super important for me while I'm mind mapping. I don't listen to music while I read, but while I mind map, absolutely. Each time I start the Pomodoro timer, I also hit the music playlist. It's all instrumental and it gets me focused into a state that is similar to flow. Now, the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes can sometimes be a little difficult to get over, but once I hit that 10-minute mark, I'm in flow, and in 20 minutes, I can basically mind map almost an entire book simply by memory. It's a very, very, very powerful state to get into is that flow state. I find music really helps me get into it. Other people might be different, but music is very important for me to get into the flow state. T is for teach, and that is essentially what these videos are. Teaching is the most important part of this formula for me, and I didn't even realize this until recently, but now I see it everywhere. I have noticed that I even remember better when I read while I'm mouthing the words. So if I just mouth the words while I read, I will remember and comprehend information so much better. I think teaching is the cornerstone for me to be able to remember information. So I want to thank each and every one of you for watching these videos, because as I'm reading, as I'm mind mapping, I'm thinking about you. How can I help you understand the information a little better? And in turn, that really helps me remember the information. E is for enter. These videos are a perfect example of entering. Each week, I'm committed to making one video. So I read one book a week, no matter what. One book a week, something that not many people are willing to commit to. So I think that this enter in this kind of scheduling this YouTube channel, not only just scheduling the videos, but also making sure that I have a commitment to you, the audience, to make sure that I'm sticking to my commitment. R is for review. So saving the mind maps and coming back to them is very important. This review part for you can be going and downloading the mind maps, getting them and kind of moving them around and really reviewing them in your mind as you're watching the video. That's for sure. Very, very good. But one of the other types of reviews that I do inside the mind maps is actually recalling how the book I'm reading connects to other books. So you can see the point about Cal Newport and Nir Eyal. That's an example of, for me, reviewing the information, pulling it back up. How does this connect to other books that I've read in the past or other books that I've read recently? All points that are very good to help you kind of recall and pull back that information, review that information. Our next point is about lies and BS. All behavior is driven by belief. So before we address how to learn, we must first address the underlying beliefs we hold for what is possible. We're not born with pre-installed mindsets about what we're capable of achieving. We learn these fixed and limited ways of thinking from people in our lives and the culture we experience growing up. Think of a young elephant tied to a stake in the ground. When it's a baby, the elephant isn't strong enough to pull the stake up, so it eventually stops trying and it learns the effort is futile. As that elephant grows, it gains more than enough power and strength to pull out the stake, but it remains tied up by something as inconsequential as a rope and a flimsy piece of metal because of what it learned as a baby. In psychology, it's called learned helplessness. Most of us behave like that elephant. At some point, we had an experience that gave us an impression of what we're capable of, and our belief about our potential has been set ever since. But just as helplessness is learned, it's just as possible to learn to be limitless. In this section, you're going to learn about the 7 lies that we've taught about our potential and how to replace them with new beliefs. So this one is really all about what's possible for you, this lies and BS. One of the most important questions to ask not only of ourselves, but to really examine what's possible for me. Most of us, of course, have these long-held beliefs, similar to the elephant, of what we're capable of. And unfortunately, more often than not, in my experience, we don't have very high expectations of ourselves. But why? Here's the thing. Of the dozens and dozens of people that I've coached from this YouTube channel, most of you, are unbelievably capable and intelligent. You could be business owners. You could be high-level career people. You could be anything you wanted to be, especially if you're here. But the main problem is a lot of us don't believe this. Continuing on, I'm very emotional about that piece, but yes, I'll continue on. Struggling with feeling like you deserve, can achieve, or will achieve the success that you want. Of course, we all are. Jim says that we need to deal with the lies that we've been told, just like the elephants. I use the term lie intentionally, he says. In this case, lie is actually an acronym for limited idea entertained. If you are like the vast majority of people out there, you're entertaining ideas about yourself that define you as something less than what you truly have the potential to achieve. You're giving these ideas energy and allowing them to take residence in your mind. But they're really nothing but BS, in this case, an abbreviation for belief systems, easily memorable. Lie is limited idea entertained, and BS is belief systems. You will discover how they imprison you and what you can do about it, and keep asking yourself this question. How many of the perceived constraints are nothing more than lies and BS? That's a good mantra to remember. Is this a lie? Is this BS? I think you're going to be stunned with the answers, and that these answers are going to be very liberating. Now, as he said above, inside the book, Jim gives us 7 different lies that we've been told. I'm not going to relay that here. I think you could pick up the book if you're interested in that. It's a very good book, definitely worth picking up. But instead, I'm going to give you a couple of short journaling exercises that you could write down or mind map and follow along. So our first question is, how do I view my intelligence? How do I think about how smart I am? How do I think about how capable I am? How do I think about my intelligence? The next one is, what do failures mean to me? What failures have I had previously in my life? What did that mean to me? What does a potential failure in the future mean to me? All things that are very, very important to think about. But what do failures mean to me? Why haven't I been successful in some area before? And you might do several different areas on this journaling question, but really what we're getting at is, why do you feel you haven't been successful before? And keep an eye out for lies and BS inside of this question, by the way. What do I need before I can achieve what I want? So this happens every single time someone gets on a coaching call with me. Essentially what happens is I just need to do X before I can achieve Y. I just need to save a certain amount of money before I can start my business. I just need to get accredited before I can do this thing. And keep an eye out for lies and BS because, of course, those are limiting ideas entertained, and they're just belief systems that you've picked up along the way. That answer that you have to these questions will be very telling about the lies and BS that you've picked up in your life. And that's really the beginning, right? You first have to identify where your lies and BS are coming from. And then if I can, recommend a book. I really like What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Dr. Shad Helmstetter. It's a very good book all about the ideas that we're entertaining in our head and how we could potentially change those ideas by just incorporating some positive self-talk. Now, our final point is about motivation. When you combine purpose, energy, and small, simple steps, you get sustainable motivation. And the ultimate form of motivation is the state of flow. Think about it as energy management, creating it, investing it, and not wasting it. A clear purpose or reason gives you energy. Practices you employ will cultivate energy in your brain and the rest of your body. A small, simple step requires little energy. So we got kind of those three things again, right? Purpose, energy, and small, simple steps, or S3. Purpose drives us to act, and our purpose must be clear enough that we know why we're acting and what we're hoping to gain. Generating sufficient energy is vital. If you're tired or sleepy, or if your brain is foggy, then you won't have the fuel to take action. Small, simple steps take minimal effort and keep you from being paralyzed with overwhelm. And finally, finding flow is the ultimate boon to motivation. Flow is something that I try and step into every single day. During these mind maps, during my working life, during these videos, during my reading, I try and get into flow as much as I possibly can. It's like this fountain of unbelievable energy that I can dip my toe into at any moment, given that I follow a couple of different precursors. And I would recommend that you check out the book Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, one of the books that I've done on this channel. He's kind of the guy that really brought flow to the forefront of modern day positive psychology. A lot of really good step-by-step tutorial on how to find flow in your own life is inside that book. I recommend that you check that out on the YouTube channel. Continuing on, we want to think about motivation as really an equation, a three-step equation. So we've got motivation equals purpose times energy times S3, small, simple steps. So let's talk about each one of them. Purpose. Get clear on your purpose. It's really one of the most important things you can do. Get clear on your purpose and remind yourself of that purpose every single day. Why are you doing what you're doing? Here's a hint. When we're trying to find our purpose, it's always helpful to understand who you're serving and why. And if that doesn't connect with you, another thing that you could think is, who am I and how could I serve myself? What would a helpful friend, what would an older brother, what would a parent, what would someone who cares about you do for you? And that's what you can do to serve others as well, because there's lots of people just like you out there in the world. Then remind yourself daily. I like to do this through reflection in my meditations. I like to do it through journaling. I really am zoning in on a very clear purpose, not only for myself, but for this YouTube channel, for where I'm putting my energy. Very important. As Jim says up here, really what we're looking for, we need a clear purpose or reason giving us energy. Purpose drives us to act, and our purpose must be clear enough that we know why we're acting and what we're hoping to gain. I think unwritten inside of that sentence is that sometimes when you have a purpose, sometimes when you want to do something difficult, it's going to be hard. And using the purpose is going to allow you to get through those hard days, those hard hours, those hard weeks, those hard months, even those hard years. If you have a clear purpose, you can get through almost anything. As Viktor Frankl said, you can bear almost anyhow if you have a strong enough why. And that's really what we're looking at here, is a strong why and remembering it. So energy. This is really pure physical and mental energy. Contributing factors are, of course, sleep, food, and movement. We haven't talked a ton about that on this channel, but sleep, food, and movement are really core principles inside of this energy idea. This motivation equals purpose times energy times S3. It's one of the big cornerstones. So we really need to be managing those correctly. We need to be getting enough sleep, eating the correct amount of food at the correct times that goes well with our body. And of course, we need to be getting movement, but of course, not too much. Small, simple steps is our final one, this kind of idea of S3 in our motivation equation. And this is really, what are we going to do next? This is momentum. It comes from books like The Compound Effect and The Slight Edge, both of which are on this channel again. But what we really want to do is take some small step forwards and allow ourselves, propel ourselves to getting a little bit better each and every day. So that was the motivation equation. Motivation equals purpose times energy times small, simple steps. And that was Limitless by Jim Kwik. I really appreciate you being with me here today. And if you're here at the end of the video, I just want to extend a little invite to you that I haven't extended to everyone else. If you click see more in the description down below, there is a link to a free coaching session. There's absolutely no obligations. I would be happy to have you and just talk to you about what's going on in this book, talk to you about what's going on in your life, and see if there's a way that I can help you in a small, short 30-minute conversation that I'm not going to invite everyone to. It's only the people that stayed right till the very end of the video. Thanks.